Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a Zor, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. Hey, it's Erik here. Just had an amazing conversation with John Gilmore. He and his wife, Melissa, own Orangetheory Fitness, a mom and pop and Kid Strong. They've had some really cool success. They've had an exit, which we get into. We talk about what it's like to have an investor that is not just money, but strategic advice, advisory, and all of those kinds of things. And then how do you find investors like that? What do you do once you find them, and how much that relationship really impacts a business? And then we get into all kinds of things, the difficulties of that mom and pop business of getting it going, how the owner tried to sabotage the thing right away in the business, and how it almost didn't turn out to be a major success story. But like John said, this is one that he has on his resume as a big win. So I hope you enjoy this podcast with John Gilmore. John, man, I've been excited to have you on the podcast. We get to talk about all kinds of things. What I find interesting about you is you've used banks, you've used private investing money to start up these businesses. And we're talking about you and your wife, Melissa. You've been in franchise businesses, non-franchise businesses, bought and exited with just over a year. So you have a lot of experience in a short period of time. So, dude, where do we want to start? Why don't you start with a little bit of your background?
Yeah, a little bit of the background is I got my start in entrepreneurship when I was fresh out of high school. I started selling knives for Cutco and wasn't really much of a salesman, but absolutely fell in love with their opportunity for college students to run their own business. So I went through management training under Justin Donald, and the following year, I actually drove from my last final straight to the office in Rolla, Missouri that I had negotiated rent for, and I turned the keys on it and I was off and running. We didn't have central air conditioning, and it was the heat of the summer in central Missouri. But we had a lot of people who were really passionate about becoming better versions of themselves through selling knives. And so we had some pretty okay success that summer, and did it again the following summer and again the following summer. And then decided it was time to kind of sell out and get a Fortune 500 job. And there was a company that didn't have a presence in the Midwest. So they hired me to get that off the ground and up and running and profitable, and did that for a handful of years. In the meantime, my wife and I got married, and she moved to Kansas City and started working for a big franchisee with Orangetheory, and did a really great job for him, opened a number of successful studios and managed a number of successful studios. And while he was selling about everything that he had Orangetheory wise, he sold us a license. And so we went the debt finance route for that and got an SBA loan together, and we were off and running. Then comes KC Dogs about a year and a half later, and we bought a dog training company. Didn't know
and this
anything
is a mom
about
and pop, KC Dogs, mom and pop business. How did you, okay, so keep going. I have questions around this, but keep going. You're giving the overview.
Yeah. We debt financed that one as well, and got the deal done in 57 days from the first time that I talked to the owner till the day we closed. Try to move pretty quickly, and then we were off and running there. Several months later, things kept going well, and so we found our way to Kid Strong, and we're just about to open our first location here in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, kind of the high level overview. We've got the experience with on the franchise side with Orangetheory and with Kid Strong. The mom and pop side, completely different with KC Dogs.
So, and then I think it's interesting. We have a lot of the same mutual friends. I think probably because I'm not a Cutco guy, but I may as well have been. I have so many friends that were former Cutco people. You mentioned Justin Donald, mutual friend. He's an investor in your stuff. And I think a lot of people find that interesting, like debt financing and then investor. Talk about that a little bit, just from a high level standpoint. What is it like having an investor? And I would say a smart passive investor. So it's not just money, but it's not somebody that's active in the business at all.
Yeah, I personally have really enjoyed it. And Justin's been there for whatever we need from a mentorship standpoint. So he's always a phone call away. And it may take a couple of days to schedule the phone call for him to get back to me. But Justin has been an incredible rock for us to lean on while we learn and while we develop over these years. He's completely passive. That's a very accurate statement. I call Justin. Justin never calls me. And so that's been very freeing. He trusts us, I think, pretty completely to make the decisions that are in his best interest because they're in our best interest, because we're equity partners. So what's good for us is good for him. And for the most part, we just agree on what the future of these companies should look like. And he gives us plenty of leeway and plenty of rope to just move forward, however we think is going to be best.
Love it. So let's talk about Orangetheory for a little bit, and then we'll move on to Casey Dogs, mom and pop. That was a big winner for you guys, and then move on to Kid Strong. So you started Orangetheory at the absolute worst time. I did the same thing in fitness. So give us a little bit of how did you even find that license? Because your wife, Melissa, was working for that particular, was it an area developer or a franchisee or both?
Area developer. So I'd say a high level belief that my wife and I share is that we want to find people that we respect and look up to and are doing the kinds of things we want to do in 5 or 10 years. And we want to grab their coattails, and we just want to hold on for dear life. So we want to provide as much value as we possibly can to those kinds of people. And so for my wife, she was a studio manager for an area developer who had a ton of Orangetheories. And so she just provided him as much value as she possibly could. And so that meant running the Orangetheories as best as she possibly could and putting her heart into them. And I completely lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
So she poured her heart and soul into them. And I love that because now you're on the other side of it. You see employees that are just pouring into the business and they have another motive besides just being the best employee. They're like, I've got other goals here. And I love that. So did she approach him? Did he approach you guys? How did that work out?
Yeah, the way that I remember it is a little different than the way that she remembers it. But what I remember is she came home.
Who's right?
It was told to me a long time ago that in a marriage, you can either be right or you can be happy. So I'm going to choose to be happy and say that she's probably right on it, but I like my story way better. So
all right, let's do your version.
So I remember her coming home one day and saying, hey, he jokingly said, if I could get the money together for a license, we could open an Orangetheory. Ha, 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 ha. And I said, cool, we're going to open an Orangetheory. And I think it was that night we started making calls. Justin was our first call. So it was actually, we made one call and he was in, and then we were off and running for his partnership. Her version is that the area developer approached her and said, hey, if you want to get the money together, you can. And she said, cool, and then started running with it. So we just have a disagreement on who started running with it.
I think the call is important. I was interviewing Darcy Harbot. He's a friend of mine, local friend. He's in Justin's mastermind, the lifestyle investor mastermind. And he taught me a long time ago, like, be the guy that earns the phone call. So there was an opportunity to partner with you, and there was an opportunity from your standpoint to have a phone call with somebody that might invest with you. So it's a mutual thing. Why was Justin your first call? Like, what about him or the relationship made him call number one?
Yeah. Justin's been in my life since I was 17 years old. And I have told him this before. I trust him with my life. He's a great mentor, and there's really, other than my wife, I don't think there's anyone else that I'd rather be doing business with. So very easy decision there. I think that as my wife and I were talking, we thought through a couple of other options. Oh, we could call this person. Oh, we could call this person, but we just don't trust them like we trust Justin, because we have the history with him.
So history is one of the big things. And the way, what I'm thinking right now is people out there, they're listening to this, John, and they're thinking, I work for a franchisee, or I work for a franchisor. I want to actually own one of these things, but I may not have the money. I may not be bankable. So how do I do this? And so that's why I kind of asked those questions. Any advice that you would give to somebody out there that, you know, they might not have a Justin or somebody like that, but like generic advice, somebody that is looking for money, what would you, from an investor, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I personally would say just start asking people. I think that, in my opinion, there are plenty of investors who would be very excited to partner with someone ready to put in sweat equity. And so if you're in that position where you just, I just need the funding, or I need the investing backing, just ask somebody, because the more you start asking, you're going to open a lot of doors really quickly.
So that's the asking. You positioned yourself in a way for them to be like, wow, I would love the opportunity to invest into, you know, John and Melissa. So that's why he invested. Anything else that you would suggest to the person that wants the money? Like, what do they need to have from a mindset, a skill set, a drive to work, or what is it that you would advise somebody that's looking for money?
Yeah, I'd say having a strong resume and maybe a strong track record of being able to get results and drive results. I'd say that's very important. And then from I guess this is a mindset, is at the end of the day, everything is going to fall down on you. And that is a ton of pressure. And so you need to ask yourself, are you ready for that? Are you ready to be the guy or the girl, and you are the person that drives everything forward? And if the answer is yes, and you can communicate that effectively to an investor of, hey, this is what I'm passionate about, this is why you should buy into me and this business plan, then it shouldn't necessarily be the hardest sale in the world.
Do you think that Justin or the investor knew that you wanted more than just one Orangetheory location, or was that ever a discussion, or is it like, how did that conversation go?
I think it was a pretty short one. By the time we got into Orangetheory, it was a very mature brand, and a lot of the licenses were just being bought up by larger private equity groups. And there just wasn't, we kind of knew that as we got in that we'd be really excited to get into this one, but that it would be very hard to expand unless we were buying currently open studios.
So but now you've gone on to buy other things. Was that part of the original thing? Like, hey, if we get this one right and we do well here, you know, we have a bigger vision. Was that part of it? Or is it just like, let's just take it one step at a time?
Probably a little bit of both. I think in the back of our minds, we definitely have a 5-year plan, but we also want to be very flexible and very adaptable to it, or with that 5-year plan. And so we got into Orangetheory thinking this will be a launching pad to bigger and better things, whether that's more Orangetheories or KC Dogs or Kid Strong or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think it has to be a little bit of both.
Awesome. All right. So I love it. Franchise, mom and pop franchise. Let's dive into the mom and pop. So here, like, give us like, what was the transition between Orangetheory or how did you find Kid Strong? And then let's go into that, or not Kid Strong, but KC Dogs, like go into that story.
Yeah. So I had been working at my corporate job for almost 5 years, and Orangetheory was stable, and I was just champing at the bit to get out. And so I told one of my customers, who was actually a good friend of mine at that Fortune 500 company, I told him, hey, I don't know when it's going to be. I don't think it's next week, but it might be in 3 months and it might be in a year. At some point, I'm on my way out. And I have to do my own thing. I can't keep working for somebody else. I got to give this thing a try. And I think within a week, he connected me to somebody in his network. And then that person had somebody else in their network. And that person was the owner of KC Dogs. And it was the night before they put the business up for sale on Biz Buy Sell. I had a conversation with them. And I think within 2 days, we made like a full price offer. And 50 some days later, we closed.
So what was that like? So franchisee with a very reputable brand, like Orangetheory has a very strong name out there. Very good brand. Why mom and pop? Like, why did you want an existing business that's just a regular small business? What was attractive about that to you?
It was making money. I think that's very important with any brand, any business. It's got to make money. That's point number one. And then at almost even like a soul level, I like to say I have an ache to make the world a better place. And I know that my days are numbered. I actually have a counter on my phone that's on my home screen. So based on my age and diet, which is a fair amount of Chick-fil-A, I have 17,800 days left on this planet. And so in 17,801 days, I want this world to be better than it is today. And that's really important to me. And so with any brand that we're going to choose to work with, it has to make the world a better place. So
how does dog training make the world a better place?
There are plenty of dogs out there they've got awesome personalities, but for whatever reason, they show a little bit of aggression, or they show some resource guarding, or they just got some issues that make them they can't live up to their potential as family members. And so being able to take those dogs in, put them back into the home, and now they're awesome family members, man, that was very, very special. Or even just the basic obedience side of things. Dogs speak a different language than humans. And so being able to help bridge that gap and put a puppy back into the home where now the parents know how to talk to their dog. And for the next 10 years, they've got the tools to make this the best that it can possibly be. I think that I love pets. So I think it's a very special thing that we were able to do there.
So let's talk about the business side of that. So you found it off market. And I think this is an interesting conversation. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because a lot of people, once they are in franchising, they tend to stay in franchising. Now, I've been in franchising, had, I think, 7 different brands as a franchisee, and I've had mom and pop brands, regular businesses outside of franchising as well. And I don't think I probably ever talked about that, but so I just haven't had franchise businesses. And I think with this podcast and the listeners, some of them may have franchise businesses, and some of them may want to look at an existing business for what you just said, cash flow. And I was just talking to somebody else about this. Yeah, I was just this in the last week, and I said, why? They were talking about buying a business and looking at franchises. I asked them what their goals were. And, we went down this rabbit hole, and I said, you should absolutely look at buying an existing business. And I said, start on Biz Buy Sell at least, because that's the main marketplace for them, or find a business broker, but, start with Biz Buy Sell. But I also love how you started. Friend Roland Frazier would say the same thing, to start telling people that you're interested and you're buying businesses. And you just start to put that out there, like, hey, I'm interested in buying a business. It's amazing the kind of off-market deals will come up and will be presented to you. And so you found this one before it went on Biz Buy Sell. It went on Biz Buy Sell. What happened at that point? Like, let's walk through this mom and pop acquisition that you had. So yeah. You got introduced. I'm guessing you had a phone call. You're like, I'm interested. And they're saying, this is going on Biz Buy Sell tomorrow. And then they actually did it. Is that accurate? And then what happened?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. It happened a couple of years ago. So the exact timeline.
That's my version of the story, man. And it's probably right.
That's fair. That's fair. So yeah, I think it went live, and pretty immediately we were ready to put in an offer. I don't think that I'm going to start looking at businesses if I'm not going to be very serious about them. Me looking to make an acquisition isn't a hobby, because I know that owning a business is not a hobby. That's a heart and soul kind of a thing. So it went live, and then we were ready to be flexible. I've got kind of the trust of Justin. So we we were able to make an offer really quickly, and then asked them, of course, to pull down the ad, because I don't need bunch of competition coming in and trying to ruin my deal while we're moving towards a close date. So it was candidly pretty quick. Within probably 24 or 48 hours.
But that was strategic. I mean, Justin's given that advice. And was that part of the LOI? Like, you pulled down the ad, or is that just a nice ask?
Yeah, we definitely had some exclusivity for either 45 days or 60 days. Basically, yeah, our timeline to close, we were all exclusive during that time.
That's great. So during that time, do you just have an endless supply of cash sitting in a safe somewhere, or did you have to like put the deal together?
Yeah, we used a bank for the KC Dogs deal as well. And so that was kind of the double-edged sword of both the KC Dogs deal and the Orangetheory deal. Is, Erik, I cannot tell you how many hours I have sat down at my computer with a list of 50 banks with SBA lenders, and just phone call, introduce myself, gave them a 10-minute pitch, sent a follow-up email with, here's all of the financials, are you interested in it? And to get no after no after no after no. My estimate is that for Orangetheory, we went through about 25 to 30 banks. And then again, for the KC Dogs deal. And each one of those is not a 5-minute transaction. It's time and effort that really goes into those. And then once you get 5 on the hook, you think, okay, well, I can probably carry like 5 forward. And then you get 5 no's a week later, and you got to start it all over from scratch. So yeah.
Were these SBA? Was this both SBA loans or traditional?
Orangetheory was an SBA loan, and then KC Dogs was a private loan.
Why was it so difficult to get an SBA loan with Orangetheory being an established franchise like that?
Yeah, so I love working with Justin. I really enjoy having him as a business partner, but it's almost the double-edged sword of having a completely passive investor, is that at some point you find their border of comfortability. And he just had there was something that he was comfortable with and something that he wasn't comfortable with. And so we had to take his specific terms into the banks and get something that they were all comfortable with. And
you could have had money before the 20 banks, but because he wanted certain terms or certain specific, things in that loan, that's why you were not able to.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, it's on me. If I want to make this thing happen, there's only one person in the world who can possibly make this happen. Yep. So I think that's one of the things that I'm best at.
Well, I think it's interesting. So you had these parameters with your investor, but it's really advantageous to either him as the investor or both of you guys as investors, because I think you both put money in as investors. And then, so just call that the investor pool of money. And there's probably some protection around that or assets within the bank loan structure. And so it's really you got advantageous terms versus just the standard terms anybody else gets off of the street when they say yes right away. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for that Orangetheory deal, I kept going back to Justin saying, hey, if you would just budge a little bit, we can get this across the finish line. And he kept coming back and saying, I know they'll do the deal. I know someone will do the deal. You just got to find them. So
that's really important, because it's easy for people out there just to go with the first 1 or 2 or 3 that take the deal. And I think it's important if you're looking at investors, especially, and I don't know all the specifics, I don't need to know all the specifics, but if they're on the personal guarantee, there's personal guarantees involved, and there's different things that would impact the investor. And that the deal structure is one thing, but that's like real money on these personal guarantees and whatnot, and how they burn off and just the structure of that. So if you're dealing with an investor, they might be more apt to be more challenging with the terms, and get better terms that are going to be more advantageous to them or the business in general. So that's a good little tangent that we went on right there. Any advice that you would give to people that are looking at some of these loans? Are you glad that you were so kind of had those parameters, or do you wish you would have loosened them up?
I think I can say that I'm glad we had the parameters. At this point, I've got the experience. I now know a lot more about where banks can actually be flexible, even if they tell you at first they can't be flexible there. If they want the deal badly enough, they probably can be. And so I think Justin kind of walking us through, or yeah, almost forcing us to go through that process is something that I'm glad for.
Any learnings that you want to share with some of the terms or things like that, or you want to keep those to yourself right now? Which is fine.
I think I'm gonna hold those close to the vest for now.
We'll share those with the mastermind. You're part of the franchise tribe mastermind. So all of those juicy details get shared in the mastermind.
Perfect. Yep. I think that's great.
We have lots of cool conversations in the mastermind we have cool stuff that happens in the Facebook group, just the generic Franchise Secrets Facebook group. But boy, in that mastermind, we take things to the next level, and get some really good advice from people that have so much experience, like that attorney call that we had the other day. That was
completely agree. Whether it's that or some of the calls directed towards managers that you can just put your managers on, and then they're going to often go running by themselves and learn a ton from an expert in the field. Whether it's the stuff that we go through on a monthly basis. Personally, I have absolutely loved being a part of the mastermind.
Dude, I love it. And one of the things I want to do with the mastermind is I think if I'm an owner and I'm paying somebody to learn something from them, the mastermind, I want to leverage this thing with my sales team, with my management team, so they can learn different things. And so that's why I brought in other people like Stacy Barnes and Ryan Casey to teach managers and have all kinds of leadership stuff and whatnot. And Ryan Casey, he just, people that don't know Ryan Casey should absolutely get into his world. He's amazing with sales training and whatnot. I know he's helped us out in our franchises and helped a lot of other folks out. And Ryan, he's just he's an amazing guy.
Absolutely.
All right. So you acquired now. You got the financing, took you forever it didn't take you forever. You got it done quickly, but not without any pain.
Yep. It absolutely took a lot of pain. I remember a day that my wife and I were sitting on the couch and I looked her in the eyes. I was like, I don't think I can get this done. I think I can do anything and everything in the world, Erik, but I just didn't think it was so many no's, and I'd given it everything that I had. And I told her I didn't think it was going to happen. And so what do you do if you're an entrepreneur? I woke up the next day and started calling more banks. So
calling them up, And then what was it about the one that did the deal with you? What was it about them? Like, why do you think they did it when other people didn't?
I think that for whatever reason, they felt comfortable with taking it on. And I don't know if it was an adjustment to my sales pitch or if it was just at that point, we probably had a little bit, maybe another month of financials from the KC Dogs company. I don't know exactly what it was, but if you call 100 banks, probably one of them is going to say yes. If you're in that position,
you got to grind. So you got to grind. You can grind it out. Okay, so now you're in that business. What happened once you're in that business? You took over the keys. Now you got people out there whistling and to have dogs on leashes and teaching the naughty dogs how to be good dogs.
Yeah. Well, within 6 months, we turned over every single person, and that was my worst nightmare. We found out within 3 weeks that the old owner decided not to disclose that he was having an inappropriate relationship with the general manager, and that it would be really hard to get her bought into me and my ownership because of their relationship. I did my absolute best to hang on to everybody and provide a phenomenal work environment, but the culture that they had there just was not what it was indicated to me that we were walking into. And so there were a couple people that we desperately wanted to hang on to that we just couldn't. And then there were a couple people that we were pretty excited to see leave. Part of the turnover problem was that within 100 days, the previous owner kind of had a nervous breakdown and systematically tried to rip the company apart limb by limb, even though it was a wild breach of contract. But when people are leaving, there's not really anything that you can do in the moment other than hire and train new people, put them in positions to be successful and move forward. And so that's what we did. We just built back from the ground up and did the best that we could to kind of hold on for dear life. And, oftentimes that meant really, really early mornings and really, really late nights. But you pour your heart and soul into the things that you care about. So we held back and we've held on and we built it back far better than it had been before we took over. And so put it on really solid ground, and we're really proud of that.
That's awesome. So I've heard that with, I'm thinking about a couple of people in my head right now that they bought existing businesses like that, franchise or non-franchise. You buy existing businesses and you're dealing with employee turnover. Sounds like you dealt with that on a whole nother level, but that is to be expected as you're getting into some of these businesses that are you're buying out existing, especially management. I've seen people that buy them and they're like, I'm figuring we will have a whole new staff a year from now, but you guys experience that really quickly. Anything that franchising with Orangetheory taught you as you were running KC Dogs, like experience as a franchisee, learning systems, processes, learning things as an Orangetheory franchisee, did that help you running a mom and pop?
Yeah, maybe not just specifically Orangetheory, but also pulling stuff in from the 5 years as an outside salesperson. I walked into the dog training company, and it was a dog training company that had been owned by a dog trainer. So when you put someone in that position who's great at customer service and great at sales, they're just going to look at it differently. And so I was able to ramp things up really quickly and establish, both from Orangetheory and from my time as an outside salesperson, able to establish some strong processes and systems and protocols. Hey, this is how we do things when somebody calls in. If somebody calls in and you're busy, stop being busy, go answer the phone. This is a sales call. We pay for people to call, answer the phone. But that was not the culture. The culture had been, oh, if the phone rings, it rings. And so just getting my hands on those types of things, also establishing, obviously, HR policies and just various little things here and there that I was able to walk in and really tighten the screws on.
So sales, if you didn't have that sales experience, would you have had the success that you had with it? Because it sounds like, the sales drives revenue, which was not a problem for you guys because you put in good sales culture and salespeople. Was that the saving grace, or was it a lot more than just that?
My philosophy in business has always been, and it just goes back to the first business that I ever ran, was a knife selling business. So my philosophy has always been, if we sell enough, then that gives us room to keep the doors open and we can figure out every other problem as it comes up. But we have to start with selling enough. So yeah, I would absolutely say that our saving grace was sales experience. And maybe I don't even think that sales experience is that hard to come by. So if somebody's listening to this right now and they're thinking to themselves, I don't have any sales experience, I don't know how to get it, then you could, first of all, apply for a sales position, would be a really easy thing to do. But then also, whether it's trying to search Ryan Casey on YouTube for great sales and customer service tips, or just really any YouTuber, sales and customer service isn't hard as long as you're attentive and you care about what you're doing. So I think that just implementing that culture of caring about what we're doing was very important. And obviously I'm talking about like a smaller mom and pop. I think we walked into like 8 employees. That what I just said probably doesn't scale if you've got maybe 50 employees that you're walking into.
No, that's good. That's good context. So what's the end of that story? What's the end of KC Dogs? Like how did that end up?
Yeah, we decided to move on from the brand because we hopped on board with KidStrong, and we're really, really excited to be on board with KidStrong. And so it was a really hard decision to move on from KC Dogs. We turned over everybody, and I went through a ton with those people. We locked arms and we moved it forward and we kept it going. And so it was a really tough decision to sell the company. But at the end of the day, we decided that was what was going to be best for us in that time, to give us the room that we needed to get the KidStrongs up and running and absolutely crushing it. So sold at the end of last year, and we've been working on KidStrong ever since.
Give us a sense of that sale. You don't have to give dollar amounts if you don't want to. You could give a sales price, and the sales price that you bought it for and the sales price that you sold it for. You can give like, hey, it was a 5 out of 10, on a great exit. Like give us and the listeners some type of context for that.
Yeah, it was a resume builder for sure. I told Justin that there was a number. I told Justin, who was also Justin as our passive investor, was awesome during this process because we were able to make him his money back very quickly. And then I told him, hey, I think I want to sell. And he said, cool, do whatever you want. And it was really nice to have that flexibility. So I told him during that process, hey, there's a number. I am not going below this number because I'm going to put this on my resume. And he was perfectly fine with that. And so there you go. It was a resume building sale. How's that?
Dude, that is perfect. I love that. Now you're going strong into Kid Strong. There's a number of mastermind members that they didn't even, Kid Strong wasn't even really a thing. I had those guys on Kid Strong on the podcast when they were really early on. And now some of our mastermind members, are part of Kid Strong in a big way, which is really cool to see. We don't have time to get into Kid Strong. Maybe we'll have to do another podcast at some point, but I think this was fascinating, man. Franchisee, mom and pop, going back into franchising. I love it. I love what you and your wife, Melissa, are doing. I just love the energy. And you're just doing it. I think you're doing what a lot of people would love to be able to do. Bring on an investor, not just for money, but for that brain trust that they have and the connections that they can make. And then you are that hustler pretty soon. I mean, you could already probably do it, but you'll be that investor for some of these younger ones coming in behind you. And so I'm sure this will be going full circle at some point. So it's really cool to see, man. Any last bits of wisdom or advice that you would like to give to the listeners?
Yeah. To further your point there, I tell Justin all the time that we're very thankful for his role in our lives, and that our hope is to, as soon as we reasonably can, start doing the same thing for other people that he's done for us. So we're working towards it, and we're really excited to get to that stage. In terms of any advice that I've got for the listeners, I would say, get off your butt and do it. No one's going to come to fix your life except for you. And the only person that's in charge of your success is you. So go make a phone call.
Awesome, man. You have inspired many, I'm sure. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Erik.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.